Hello and welcome, you watching This Is Exclusive with me, Shavan Sen. Ladies and gentlemen, opposition leaders are now posting an invite, a G20 dinner invite, and there is a massive political furore over it. The invitation essentially states the President of Bharat instead of President of India. That has essentially led to a lot of speculation. Are we basically heading towards an official change in the name of our country from India to Bharat? In fact, our constitution already states that. Article 1 of the constitution uses both and it's interchangeable. But what's going to really happen in that special session? There is a lot of speculation and a lot of questions that are now being asked. Tonight, we'll try and help finding those answers to those very questions, and also an exclusive interview coming up. But up first, these are the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Big political face-off as President's invite mentions President of Bharat. Congress hits out. Sources suggest resolution to call India Bharat likely in the special session of the Parliament.
आपको किसी नेता किसी दल के खिलाफ कहना हमें मंजूर है। आप कहिए नेता और दल के खिलाफ, लेकिन मेरे भारत का अपमान करोगे, हमें स्वीकार नहीं।
Anurag Thakur tears into the opposition, asks why oppose Bharat. Sanatan controversy explodes, demand for action against Udayanidhi's talent grows. Over 250 dignitaries write to Chief Justice of India against the I.N.D.I.A leader, call for suo motu cognizance. In Jaipur, Congress leader asks workers to raise pro-party slogans instead of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning this edition of This Is Exclusive with a story which has been doing the round over the last few hours. A lot of questions essentially being asked. Are we basically heading towards a situation where the government is going to make the move of officially changing the name of India to Bharat? This comes at a time when just about a few days ago, RSS chief too also indicated that we do not essentially need to explain to anyone as to why exactly are we using the name Bharat. It traces back to our Puranic literature. In fact, over the next couple of minutes, what we are going to essentially do is help you understand why India and Bharat, they are interchangeable. What is it that the constitution essentially says about it? And why is there a political furore over this entire matter? But also the other big question, what really happens to what the opposition parties are now saying, the Reserve Bank of India, what is mentioned in the currency note, all that and much more in this edition of This Is Exclusive. But remember, there is also a lot of speculation only because the special session of the Parliament is set to begin on 18th of September. And there is much anticipation around the possibility of a big decision from the government. First it was the UCC, then One Nation, One poll. Another guess that is doing the round which points towards an official change in the name from India to Bharat through a constitutional amendment under Article 368. We'll try and explain that to you in a short while from now. There are murmurs around the expectation that was substantiated by two incidents. One is the recent post by Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma on the social media platform, who said Republic of Bharat, and happy and proud that our civilization is marching boldly towards the Amrit Kal. And of course, then the President's invite for G20 summit, which mentioned President of Bharat instead of President of India. The opposition, in fact, has also been opposing it, calling it an assault on the Indian Constitution. In fact, they say that it is only because they use the acronym I.N.D.I.A. That is the reason why the government is perhaps uncertain, afraid, several names that have been called of the government. But first, take a look at all that has happened, and then we'll try and break it down for you viewers to understand what does this essentially mean.
With just days to go for special parliament session, G20 summit invites from the President Draupadi Murmu's office, which read the President of Bharat instead of President of India, came out in the public domain. This triggered a massive row.
देखिए, कांग्रेस बौखलाहट में जिसने जिंदगी भर संविधान को तोड़ने का काम किया, और ये जो वर्ष है ये काल है भारत के सांस्कृतिक उत्थान का काल है।
इंडिया दैट इज भारत, कोई फर्क नहीं है। परेशानी इससे हो रही है ना कि हमने एक इंडिया गठबंधन बना लिया, तो साहब उसकी टैगलाइन है जुड़ेगा भारत जीतेगा इंडिया। अब भारत को भी मिटा दोगे?
भारत बोलने, भारत लिखने पर क्यों दिक्कत हो रही है? आपको क्यों शर्म आ रही है जयराम रमेश जी? पुरातन काल से हमारे देश का नाम भारत है और संविधान में भी इसको स्पष्ट किया है। बेवजह जानबूझकर भ्रम पैदा कर रहे हैं।
ये भाजपा के अंदर का डर मोदी जी का भय दिखाता है। इंडिया उधर गठन हुआ, इधर बुरिया बस्तर समेटना शुरू कर दिया। क्या इनके पास इंटरनल सर्वे नहीं? क्या गृह मंत्रालय के पास इंटरनल सर्वे नहीं? सब बता रहे हैं कि सरकार का पतन 2024 में सुनिश्चित।
However, this is not the first time a proposal to call India as Bharat was given.
जो हसतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतम गमय की यात्रा करता है, देश की तरफ जाता है, प्रकाश में रत रहता है, ज्ञान में रत रहता है, वो हमारा देश है। उसका नाम भारत है, तो दुनिया में कहीं भी जाएगा तो भारत ही रह जाते हैं। तो हम बोलने में लिखने में सर्वत्र भारत कहें।
It's crucial to emphasize that Article 1 of the Constitution recognizes both India and Bharat as official names for the country. Article 1 of the Constitution states that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states.
Matter of a view about religion which has been expressed by an individual. He happens to be a politician of a certain state and he's entitled to express his view. That's what our constitution says. Everybody has the right to express their views. You may agree with it, you may not agree with it.
If the government decides to make only Bharat the official name, they would need to introduce a bill to amend Article 1 of the Constitution. The government will likely place the proposal in the upcoming special session of the Parliament. The question that arises is whether the centre plans to amend the Constitution to make Bharat the sole official name. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Well, in fact, what is it that the Constitution essentially says about this? Remember, there is going to be a political furor, especially in this very season, where you've heard right from the Chief Minister of West Bengal to Chief Minister of Delhi, all are essentially trying to relate this to what they are saying is that the BJP perhaps is afraid of the I.N.D.I.A acronym that has essentially been used. Let's first take a look. And joining us on this broadcast is our senior executive editor who's going to help us break it down as to what is it that is reflected in the Constitution. Perhaps rewind a little bit and also take it forward from the Constituent Assembly, the discussion that took place back then, and also very interestingly, Abhishek, the date, which Constituent Assembly date when the discussion actually took place, and now subsequently it comes at a very same time when the special session is going to take place. So there is a lot of coincidence. So let's take a look at first what's happening. What is it that the Constitution says? So Article 1, ladies and gentlemen, clearly makes a mention of the fact India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Before we get to the next graphic, Abhishek, let me just quickly come to you. Now, the discussion that took place during the Constituent Assembly, which was largely named as Name and Territory of the Union, came up for discussion back in September 17, 1949. Our special session begins on September 18. So the question that many are asking, has it been officially declared by the government that this is going to come up during the session, or this is purely speculative?
As of now, this is speculation or informed speculation, Shravan, because remember, it's not a coincidence that apart from the dates that RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat mentioned something just 4 days back, and then the President of India sends an invite in the name of President of Bharat, and then immediately this word spreads that the special session is actually about deliberating on whether we do away with the name India from the Constitution. Now, Article 1, which you mentioned, India, that is Bharat, this was arrived at with a lot of deliberation because everyone thought that our name is Bharat. But then we have been for centuries now been identified as India. So why not continue and bring both of them together? So there was no intention whatsoever to give precedence to any one name.
Right.
And it beautifully mentions India, that is Bharat. Now there is an ideological position that we should only be calling it Bharat. And that's the reason why this thought that maybe this is special session. Because remember, if it's about bills, the government can bring whether on uniform civil code, which by the way anyway is being looked into by the law commission, or the one nation one election law, which again the committee has just been formed, so it's unlikely that it can be brought in now, or the women's reservation bill, again very complicated issue which cannot be brought in the over 5 days. So obviously it seems that this is because we were told initially when the session was announced by very responsible sources that this is going to be about charting out a roadmap for India in 2047, when we would be a developed country, what all we need to do. So possibly this might be an occasion to provide an ideological basis, and hence this speculation that the 5-day session is about whether to do away with the name of India at all.
Okay, so let's also take a look at what are the provisions that we are essentially talking about. Now, a provision here that we are talking about as per the article is all executive action of the government shall be expressed. This is with regards to Article 77. President shall make rules for the more convenient transaction of the business of the government of India. We've perhaps missed out one graphic just before this. So what we are basically trying to explain here, Abhishek, is that what is it that the government will have to do in terms of, if at all they want to bring in an amendment? Constitutional experts say it's very simple. A simple amendment is good enough to bring about that change. Why don't you help us understand that aspect?
Well, so continuing from our earlier graphic, and of course this is one of them, but you see, Shravan, the Article 1 mentions India, that is Bharat. Right. But that's end of the story so far as the name Bharat is concerned. And then from there on, for all the 311-12 articles that the Constitution of India has, you have India only mentioned. So, for example, Article 52, which provides for the President of India, it says President of India. It does not say President of India, that is Bharat. Okay. Similarly, if you look at Article 124, which provides for the Supreme Court of India, it says Supreme Court of India. That it does not say Supreme Court of India, that is Bharat. It says Supreme Court of India. Similarly, for the Election Commission, and wherever all these constitutional bodies are provided for, they say so and so for India. So this thought is whether by way of an amendment, now that's another graphic we would discuss later, right. But the thought is that maybe an attempt might be made to remove India from wherever it is mentioned in the rest of the Constitution, including preamble, by the way, because the preamble says we the people of India, right. And then take it forward from there.
Okay, so let's move on from there. This is essentially the provisions that we're essentially looking at. So what is it that can be done in terms of bringing about the change? So what we'll try and do, Abhishek, right now is look at all the scenarios available. Now, that's scenario number 1. In case of there is an amendment, it's a simple majority to be achieved with more than 50% of the total number of the members present. Yes. This is exactly in a short while from now. Siddharth Luthra, senior advocate, he's also elaborated on this aspect. We'll play that out. But a quick word on this. As far as bringing it during this special session, do you think that it is possible perhaps to do it right away, or there requires a much more bigger deliberation on this aspect?
Well, so this is, I believe, simple majority as provided in the Constitution itself. So the main provision for amendment to the Constitution is Article 368, which I believe you would have another graphic. Right. But this is simple majority. Essentially what the Constitution says is, unless provided for in cases where a special provision of amendment is needed, which is guided by Article 368, rest of the amendments the Parliament should be free to do with a simple majority, 50% in the Lok Sabha, 50% in the Rajya Sabha, which is called the simple majority. I don't think this would be needed, but this is one of the ways in which the constitution is amended.
So let's quickly move to the other. Let's move to the scenario number 2. There is what are the other options available? That is exactly what you were mentioning. Amendment can be done through Article 368. Abhishek, why don't you take it from here?
All right. So Article 368, Shravan, provides for amendment to the constitution in 2 ways for specific categories of amendments. One is amendment through a special majority in the Parliament itself, which is 2/3 of the membership of present and voting and at least 50% of the entire house. So that's the special majority of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha separately. That's one provision in one clause in Article 368. Second clause is a special majority of the Parliament plus at least half of the states of the country. Now there are certain subjects on which Parliament legislates, but then the impact is on states and the governance in the states, and that's why the consent of the states is needed, at least half the states of the country. But on this issue again, I think, Shravan, because remember, for example, if a state is to be renamed, you don't need the consent of the state. The Parliament can do it itself. If you need to change the territory of India, for example, if you need to expand the territory of India, any foreign country wants to become part of India, hypothetically assuming, or like we did in the case of Sikkim when it became part of India, you don't need the consent of the states. Similarly, if you need to reorganize the states, you don't need permission of the states. Parliament can do it. So obviously, when it's about the name of the country, unless out of a political courtesy, the government of the day decides that, okay, fine, let's include the states also. Otherwise, even that is not needed, but that's a provision. Article 368, 2 ways in which amendments can be made.
Well, thank you very much, Abhishek, for putting this into perspective. In fact, I find it very interesting. If you look at the discussions that have happened even during the Constituent Assembly, there are essentially 3 names that we were talking about. One about Hindustan, the other, of course, Bharat and India. Hindustan essentially being dropped, and obviously the Persian connotation to this entire thing. Just one quick question before I let you go, Abhishek. You keep a close, have a hawk's eye on what's happening in the Parliament, what's happening in the political parties. Do you get a sense that perhaps ahead of the election, the special session will have a pure Modi magic, or a typical Modi stamp on it, of bringing something completely different, unexpected, of all beyond these speculations? Do you believe that could be something very different?
Well, obviously, Shravan. So top generals and statesmen, their biggest weapon is always surprise, and Narendra Modi practices it to a T. So obviously there would be an element of surprise, or at least an element of something which the opposition might not have thought or might not have planned for, and that's the reason why special session is happening. But just before we end the conversation, we have discussed ways of amendment to the constitution, but there is another model which is equally plausible, possible, likely, which is if you look at the resolution of the Parliament of India in 1994 on Jammu and Kashmir, on Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and the Parliament resolved that we have to get back POJK.
Right.
That option is also available in the sense that you just pass a resolution and say, like we say India, that is Bharat, why not say Bharat, that is India? Okay. Like, once that resolution is there, then other aspects can fall into place. So possibly it could be that.
Well, Abhishek, I'm not letting you go because Mr. C.R. Kesavan is also joining us on this broadcast. Perhaps we can take, both of us can take few questions with Mr. Kesavan. Mr. Kesavan, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. In fact, what we were essentially trying to do is help our viewers understand of what are the options available and what is it that the government would be indicating. First, to you, with regards to the politics that is being played over this entire matter, you've heard what the alliance says. The alliance says that the BJP essentially is afraid, and that is the reason why they're going in for a name change, while the government has made nothing official about it. So first, with regards to the political aspect of it.
First thing is, nobody has any pakka information about whether there is a move afoot like this. So I think everybody is putting the horse, cart before the horse here, and everybody is jumping the gun because nothing has been said very clearly from the government side. I think one should wait to hear from the government. But like you said, it's very interesting to see the panic among the Gamandia alliance And the way they are reacting to Bharat shows how they have been viscerally against our civilizational ethos and our heritage and our culture, which the Prime Minister has been reiterating and putting forward not only in India, he's made sure even the whole world is respecting India and our parampara and culture. If you see what happened a couple of days before in this Gamandia Alliance meeting, and you see the way you see a pattern emerging. 3 days before, you saw Mr. Udayanidhi Stalin launching a frontal attack on Sanatana Dharma, which is the civilizational core of India. And none of, the party members, when you see Mamata Banerjee going to the meeting, she very conspicuously tried to avoid getting a tilak on her forehead. You would have seen that. And there have been many instances, and you heard the Samajwadi Party person say Hinduism is a doka, Hinduism doesn't exist. So it's very clear that this alliance stands for what Bharat is against and what our civilization is against. Now, coming back to your question, it's very interesting to see. And one should understand the kind of a divided house and what kind of hypocrisy the Gamandia Alliance preach. If you remember, Mr. Gandhi's yatra was called Bharat Jodo Yatra. Shouldn't they go and question themselves about it? 3 people from the first family of the Congress party today, the Congress party started tweeting furiously, and it only exposed that, naked hypocrisy. 3 people from the Congress party have received the Bharat Ratna. The Congress party never had any problem with the name Bharat when the Bharat Ratna was given. Now, and one thing we should understand, the Constitution founders very clearly in Article 1 have said India, that is Bharat. So even there was a case between 2016 to 20 saying that Bharat should be the name, and the courts, I think, even said that Bharat is already the name. India's name is already Bharat. So, so there is, that is something I need to, reiterate. Coming from Tamil Nadu, I also want to say this,
I just want to take
the Dravidian parties and the opposition always talk about Bharatiyar. Bharatiyar was one of the greatest Tamil poet. Rajaji called him the national bard of India when he introduced him to Gandhiji. What has Bharatiyar sung? He said, Bharata Samudayam Vargave, Jaya Jaya Jaya, Bharata Samudayam Vargave. Bharatiyar was from Tamil Nadu. And he said, Bharatiya Samudayam Vargave, and that is the kind of national integration, that is the kind of pluralism which Bharatiyar stood for, and which what the Prime Minister of India, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, reflects and stands for. And this is exactly what the Gamandia Alliance cannot brook or tolerate.
Okay, Mr. Kesavan, just a quick question before I let you go. You made a mention of the Supreme Court back in 2020. It was in June 2020 when the Supreme Court had dismissed the PIL, because both India and Bharat, they're interchangeable. So the counter that I'm asking you is there actually a need to bring in a resolution or any sort of an amendment when both are interchangeable? Why the need for any sort of an amendment at this stage?
The first reaction is this is in the realm of speculation. But one thing we should understand, India is the civilizational heritage of India goes back to more than 5,000 years, be it in the Vishnu Purana, be it in the Mahabharata. There is always a mention of Bharat. Please, besides the Article 1, please look at, how our national anthem, it has Bharat, Janagana Mana, Bharata Bhagya Vidata, again Bharat comes. So the people in the Gamandia Alliance now will object to the national anthem because it has Bharat. So let us understand one thing, Bharat is ubiquitous, it is everywhere. And, I want to again point this out. You would remember the Gurgaon candidate in 2019 in Haryana said we should not say Bharat Mata ki Jai. We should say Sukhbir ki Jai, Sonia ki Jai, and Bhupinder Hooda ki Jai. And recently, today, if I see, I saw in Maharashtra a person called Aradhna Mishra is condemning Congress workers from saying Bharat Mata ki Jai and say the Congress party ki Jai. So this is the parochial attitude. But one thing, let us be very clear, be it our constitution, which has Bharat, be it our national anthem, which has Bharat, be it our civilizational heritage and ethos, which has Bharat. Bharat is what we are defined by. And let me ask you one small example, coming back from Tamil Nadu. There was such a furor in the 50s, and the DMK claims credit for saying we changed Tamil Nadu from Madras. So when that is applicable to Tamil, we are very proud that we call it Tamil Nadu. It is. But the same thing applies for Bharat. Why should you have a colonial vestige or a remnant? Bharat is who we are, and we, it's the right thing to do. And and when you say Bharat, you feel proud. It gives you goosebumps. So I think first thing is I'm very glad that you're calling the bluff and the hypocrisy of the Gamandia Alliance, because they stand for everything that is against the Indian ethos, heritage, and civilization. And Bharat, for me and the BJP, it represents civilizational continuum. India is a vestige of the colonialists. It's a colonial vestige, and that came in the middle. But Bharat was always there, Bharat is there, and Bharat will always be there.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kesavan, for joining us on This Is Exclusive, putting this into perspective, something what BJP parliamentarians in the past too have highlighted, that it is high time perhaps to shed the colonial package. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. On the other side, news and updates continue. Over 250 dignitaries write to Chief Justice of India against the INDIA bloc call for suo motu cognizance.
People of this country know that whichever language we go to, we are speaking for the people 24/7. We are truly the voice of the people. Today we dedicate Republic Kannada to the people of Karnataka. I am totally confident that the people of Karnataka will welcome us and accept us, give us their blessings in this journey.
2017 Republic TV. 2019 Republic Bharat. 2021 Republic Bangla. 2023 Republic Kannada, coming soon on India's largest news network.
Nobody can ever trouble an honest journalist. Nobody can ever trouble an honest media house. We are destined for success. Every moment from now on, I want everyone in the Digvijay newsroom to always remember that you must be wedded to the cause of news. Thank you very much, Anand, for having us here and for letting us take the journey forward.
People of this country know that whichever language we go to, we are speaking for the people 24/7. We are truly the voice of the people. Today we dedicate Republic Kannada to the people of Karnataka. I am totally confident that the people of Karnataka will welcome us and accept us, give us their blessings in this journey.
It's the biggest controversy over President's G20 invite that mentions the President of Bharat. The Congress already is hitting out.
किसी दल के खिलाफ कहना हमें मंजूर है। आप कहिए नेता और दल के खिलाफ, लेकिन मेरे भारत का अपमान करोगे हमें स्वीकार नहीं।
Ahead of G20, Republic speaks to Union Minister Anurag Thakur. He says it's a proud moment for the country. Union Minister also conducts a review at Bharat Mandapam. He also takes a tour of the International Media Centre earlier. The Delhi police clarifies on a lot of rumors right now on the social media saying that essential services will remain open during the G20 summit, barring a part of the area under the NDMC. Ahead of the mega summit, Republic's largest team of reporters getting you an exclusive sneak peek into the preparations underway for the G20 delegates. And a day after confirming Xi Jinping will not be attending G20, now China says ready to work with all parties to push for the success of the summit. A very good evening. You're watching Republic and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. This is our special focus on G20. We are just hours away now from that big summit that the world has its eyes on. Remember, a lot of last-minute preparations that continue, even as we get you more details on the kind of preparations, the do's and don'ts that you need to keep in mind in case you're living in and around the Delhi region. In fact, ahead of the summit, the Indian Air Force has established an Operations Direction Center which will closely work with the Joint Control and Analysis Center at the Indira Gandhi International Airport and other agencies concerned. The move aims to make the airspace over Delhi more fortified against any kind of threat. And once established, the ODC will decide what is the best method or which weapon system should be used to counter the threat once it is conclusively established. We also have Nikita who's joining us live right now, and she has more inside track on what to expect and what to look at. Nikita, I do understand a lot of this is going to be a part of the security apparatus and a lot of these details are not in the public domain. But what is it that we know of the kind of measures that have been put in place essentially to ensure that everything remains safe and sound?
Absolutely, Deepthi. As the countdown, the final countdown to the G20 summit begins, it is just a couple of days away. It is being thoroughly ensured that the security of the venue, Delhi, and the areas adjoining New Delhi and other parts of north of India are completely taken care of as far as security is concerned. Understanding the sensitivity of the situation, the Indian Air Force has also been brought in to ensure that our skies are impregnable against any sort of enemy intervention. According to our sources in the Indian